Hello there. For those of us who seek to be serial investors and multiple business owners, it is important that we understand the concept of portfolio building and portfolio management. What is a business portfolio? A business portfolio is simply accumulation of businesses or investments which you as an individual has accumulated over time. So essentially, a business and an investor will put together investment tools or would put his money in various businesses or investment tools which will generate returns for that individual. Okay, so it is that list of companies, that list of businesses, that list of investment tools that we refer to as a portfolio. Okay, now in building a portfolio, what you need to appreciate is that you there are investments which are risky, there are investments which have less risk or risk free, if you like. There are businesses which are high risk businesses, and there are businesses which are low risk businesses or have medium risk associated with them. So, in putting together your portfolio, it is always advisable, or in putting together your business portfolio, it is always advisable to find out the kind of investor that you are. Are you an investor who has a high risk or high risk appetite? Or are you an investor who has a low risk appetite? If you are an investor who has a high risk appetite, then you should be able to look at investment tools or businesses which could potentially bring you high reward but has very high risk. At the same time, if you have very low tolerance towards risk, then most of your portfolio items should be made up of businesses with very minimal risk or risk-free investment. Now, even where you go with the former, which is those who have a high risk appetite, I always advise that you should make sure that you diversify your portfolio. You dilute it a bit with some risk free investments. That is always the starting point for me because that risk free investment will conserve your capital, will conserve your investment funds, will conserve the amount of money you have available for investment purposes. So if you make the mistake of investing your entire capital in purely risky ventures, if anything goes wrong, you would have to start all over again. All of your work will be gone, all of your capital may be gone. So, my advice to individuals is that when you are building an investment portfolio, make sure that you include risk free investments. For me, that is always the starting point. I hold the majority, over 50% of my portfolio in risk free investments. It is the interest on these risk free investments that I attempt to put in risky ventures because I have invested in risky ventures before. When I started out as a young investor, I did that several. My first investment was when I was just about 16 or 17 years old in secondary school. It was an investment club. We put ourselves together and we invested on the stock exchange. I was so excited about the concept of investment. I had started saving earlier, even right from when I was in P5, because I loved investment. My life has always been about investment and money and wealth creation. So I had some little amount of money by 16 years. It wasn't much, but that was my life savings then. I invested all of that in, you know, a risky venture, which was the stock. The investment itself made money, but the manager of the fund actually defrauded all of us at the end of the day. He graduated, out of school a bit earlier, found means and ways to go to the fund, the investment house we had placed the funds with, and then he withdrew all of the money and took the money to God knows where. We couldn't find him after that. But the lessons I learned from that is all in all, even though the investment tool was not risky, but because at the end of the day I lost my investment, I will consider it to be a risky venture. Okay? At the end of the day, losing all of your capital is not a joke. Even at that age, even though the money was little, it still taught me a very, very, very valuable lesson. And I vowed never to put all my eggs into one basket or a risky venture, no matter the promise of returns or how high the promise of returns are or is. I've realized that if you stay in for the long haul, if you go in for the risk-free investments, if you are going for risk with very minimal investment, even though the returns may be minimal, but over time, you still get to conserve your capital, and two, you still receive some interest at the end of the day. Now, personally, I diversify my portfolio by, first of all, investing in risk-free investment, and the interest on that risk-free investment is what I risk or I put into risky ventures. So if I lose that amount of money, worst case scenario, within 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, I'm going to get that same amount of money back from my risk-free investment, from the interest on my risk-free investment. So even though I would have lost, but it will not be a defeating loss, I will still be in the game. I'll still be able to proceed with my investment portfolio, become wiser, and move into other areas. So my advice is that for those of you who have a high risk appetite, you should still, hedge your losses or cut your losses. You should try to hedge against risky situations. Okay, even though we love the risky ventures, you should still have majority of your funds held up in risk-free investments or risk with very minimal impact, such as treasury bills and government bonds and so on and so forth. Thank you.